This is a reading of Understanding Greek Myths, pages 40 through 45. Greek Legacy. The myths of ancient Greece still have an impact on our society today. These myths have shaped our ideas about architecture, sculpture, poetry, theater, science, medicine, math, law, and government, among other things. The temples that the Greeks built for their gods were carefully balanced in size and shape. Their height and length resulted in the right number of columns so that the temple was not only a strong structure, but was also pleasing to look at. These temples have been copied in buildings all around the world. The Brandenburg Gate in Berlin, Germany, and the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., both use an ancient Greek style in their design. Most Greek sculptures tell the stories of gods, myths, heroes, and monsters. They also showed the human body in amazing detail. Even today, carved scenes of flat slabs of stone called reliefs, as well as statues, are influenced by ancient Greek art. The Golden Boy statue on the top of Manitoba Legislative Building in Winnipeg, Manitoba, is an image of the Greek god Hermes. Epic poems are long narrative tales of heroic deeds. They were first written by the Greeks. The most famous are the Iliad and the Odyssey. See page 36. This style of writing is found in such recent epic poems as in Evangeline, a tale of Arcady, written by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow in 1847 CE. It is about the Arcadian people being driven out of the maritime area of Canada and sent back to France. All movies and plays that we watch today had their beginnings in the theaters of ancient Greece. The first plays were part of festivals to the gods, during which stories were acted out on stage. The use of costumes, masks, and even special effects were all inventions of the ancient Greeks. If you look on the picture on the left, it's the 17th century CE. French artist Claude Lorraine painted this ancient Greek scene of Apollo and the Muses. If you look below, that's the statue of the Greek god Eros, and he stands in the center of London, England. Our link to today is Eros, the god of love, is also often shown carrying a bow with which he fires love arrows or love darts. A person who suddenly falls in love is said to be love struck by such an arrow. The Muses. The 9 Muses were daughters of Zeus who lived on Mount Olympus. They were the gods of writing, music, and dance, and the inspiration for poets and playwrights. They made such sweet music together that when they sang, the heavens and earth all stopped to listen. A nearby king had 9 daughters who thought their talent was just as good as the Muses. They challenged the Muses to a contest with the nymphs as judges. The 9 sisters went first and sang their song. Then the Muses sang. Without hesitation, the nymphs declared the Muses the winners. The 9 sisters began to squawk and complain about the result until the Muses had had enough. They turned the sisters into chattering birds called magpies. Nemesis. Nemesis was the god of retribution, punishing people for their evil deeds. She watched human happenings and would step in to right any wrongs. One day Nemesis saw Narcissus, who was very handsome but also very vain, sitting by a pool of water. A beautiful nymph named Echo took one look at Narcissus and fell in love with him, but Narcissus had no time to be kind to her, and she eventually faded away until only the sound of her voice remained. Nemesis punished him by making him fall in love with himself, and he spent so much time staring at his reflection in the water that he wasted away. and became the narcissus flower that grows near the water's edge. Astrological zodiac in the green box says the two constellations in the zodiac can all trace their meanings back to Greek mythology. The twins of Gemini, who were Zeus's son, Castor and Pollux, Leo the lion, who was killed by Heracles as one of his 12 laborers, and Scorpio, the scorpion, who killed Orion, were all Greek mythological figures. Science and medicine. Ancient Greeks' belief in the role of the gods in science and medicine still affect how we understand and use these skills today. If you look up into the night sky, you might see a group of stars called constellations. Many of these groups are named after Greek gods or creatures. In Greek myths, Orion was a hunter who boasted that with his dog Cirrus, he would kill all the creatures on earth. The goddess Artemis, who wanted to protect the animals, sent a scorpion to kill him. As the constellation of Orion and Cirrus move across the sky, they are chased by the constellation of Scorpio. The Greeks thought the healer, Asclepius, who was so skilled that he could bring the dead back to life. This angered Zeus, who killed him. After Asclepius died, he became the god of healing. People built Asclepians or shrines that usually included a temple, hospital, garden, and gymnasiums. Modern health clubs are very similar to them. The first green box says the Hippocratic Oath. Doctors swear the Hippocratic Oath today to say that they will practice good medicine. The oath was written by the ancient Greek doctor Hippocrates. He may have been the first person to put forward the idea that diseases were caused by something natural and were not punishments from the gods. Geometry. Geometry is the branch of math concerned with lines, angles, surfaces, and solids. Greek mathematicians such as Pythagoras and Euclid proved the rules of geometry were true. Euclid's book, called Elements, was used to teach geometry for more than 2,000 years, and we learn Pythagoras' theorem today. The father of science. Thales of Miletus was often called the father of science. He was an ancient Greek philosopher who tried to describe the world in natural rather than in supernatural terms. He looked to science and math as a way to explain the shape of Earth, the movement of stars, and even electricity. If you look on the left, movies about the Trojan War and other events from ancient Greece are very popular today. And then we have law and democracy. Just as gods gave out punishments and rewards for people's behavior in myths, the Greeks did the same in their courts. They were the first people to use a jury to help decide the guilt or innocence of an accused person. Jury members were picked at random at the last minute, and there could be more than 200 for each trial. This large number was chosen to make it too difficult for the accused person to bribe or threaten them all and wrongly win his or her freedom. In the democracy of Athens, each year 500 men were chosen from the citizens of Athens to serve as lawmakers for 1 year. The rest of the citizens would each have one vote on any laws these men passed, and the majority ruled. The system involving as many people as practically in decision-making is the basis for our modern democracy today. In the green box, it says ostracized. The Greeks used the special system known as ostracism to get rid of a politician or other unpopular person. Citizens wrote down the name of the person on pieces of broken pottery called ostraka. If 6,000 votes against him were collected, he had 10 days to leave the country for 10 years or face death. If you look on the left here, it says pieces of ostraka or broken pottery found on the Acropolis in Athens. And here's a link to today. We could trace our modern alphabet back to ancient Greeks. Although they got ideas to write down from their trading partners, the Phoenicians, the Greeks added the symbols for vowels, something no other written language had before. Symbols for vowels and consonants created words. And our last page of this book shows a time chart. 3000 BCE, the first settlement on the Acropolis is built in Athens. 2600 BCE, Minoan palaces are built on the island of Crete, including one at Knossos, believed to be the home of King Minos. An underground labyrinth houses the Minotaur. 1700 BCE, the palace of Knossos was destroyed during an invasion. 1600 BCE, volcanic eruptions in Santorini wipes out Minoan civilization. 1250 BCE, Trojan War begins. 1240 BCE, the Greeks used the Trojan horse to defeat Troy. 800 BCE, the Greek alphabet developed. 776 BCE, first Olympic Games are held. 750 BCE, Homer composes or writes the Iliad and the Odyssey. 594 BCE, Solon introduces many reforms in Athens and lays the foundation for democracy. 510 BCE, democracy was introduced by Cleisthenes, who becomes known as the father of Athenian democracy. 497 BCE, Persian War begins. The Persians outnumber the Greeks, but the Athenians have a swift navy and the Spartans have a fierce army. 490 BCE, the Greeks defeated the Persians at the Battle of Marathon. 449 BCE, the Persian War ends. 447 BCE, construction of the Parthenon begins, a temple to the goddess Athena on the Acropolis in Athens. 446 BCE, a 30-year peace treaty is signed between Athens and Sparta. 430 BCE, the plague kills about 1/3 of all Athenians. 420 BCE, construction of the temple of Athena Nike at the Acropolis. 399 BCE, trial and execution of the philosopher Socrates for corrupting the minds of the youth of Athens. 380 BCE, Plato establishes the Athens Academy on the site of a sacred grove of olive trees dedicated to Athena, the goddess of wisdom. 359 BCE, Philip II becomes king of Macedon, now Macedonia, and begins to expand his empire. 336 BCE, Philip II is assassinated. Alexander the Great becomes king. 323 BCE, death of Alexander the Great at age 32. 146 BCE, the Romans invade Greece and govern the country, adopting the Greek gods and giving them new names. There's a little note here at the bottom that says some historians give slightly different dates for these ancient events.